I'm particularly proud of this site because after Irene, this whole section, the bigger trees stood, everything else was wiped out. You could see the river from here. So together with the White River Partnership, they coordinated it, and the town of Hartford, we worked together with our local chapter of Trout Unlimited, got volunteers down here and planted hundreds of trees and willow stakes. And now what you see is a 50-foot buffer down to the river that's going to help protect these beautiful fruit trees, and in case of another event, which will come. It's amazing to see this growth. I also want to mention that I know some of you are planting gardens that are near rivers and things like that, and I really want you to think about the riparian zone and buffers. It's very important. I have to admit the Stratford site was a little difficult for me. I know there's a lot of work going on to control invasives, but I'm hoping to work with them, with our local chapter, to get some willow stakes planted, something to hold those banks. Really look at what best practice is for riparian zones as you're planting your gardens. When you don't have cover, you warm up those streams, you warm up the rivers, and you kill the fish. And that's just the reality of it. So keeping our waters cold and clean is incredibly important.
What you see is the beginning of a food forest here. The history of the site, goes, of course, way back, and is actually unceded Abenaki territory, so we want to honor that. A lot of the goals that we've created on this site have been established as a community process. So we have a really incredible website that's been created with all of our community goals and guidelines, that it's a safe community space. And one of our goals is food sovereignty. Food sovereignty as a definition, which was a declaration of the Nalani people, which was declared at the first Global Forum on Food Sovereignty in Mali in 2007. Food sovereignty is the right of peoples to healthy and culturally appropriate food produced through ecologically sound and sustainable methods, and their right to define their own food and agricultural systems. It puts the aspirations and needs of those who produce, distribute, and consume food at the heart of food systems and policies, rather than the demands of markets and corporations. There are specific challenges in that we are in a floodplain floodplain zone, and what that means is that we're really limited in the amount of material that we can bring in. So we haven't been able to do as much mulching as we'd like to, and some of that is affecting some of the health of the trees here. Because we have to kind of be very calculated about what we bring in and what we put out. So every challenge is an opportunity, as we say in permaculture. So we're really learning a lot about working within floodplain areas. What you see is trees that were established in the fall of 2021, I believe, fruit trees, and then we're just starting to establish some guilds in those areas. And the idea is that this will be a public place for workshops, for people to come together to share food and information. And we also have an Abenaki garden that is started by Earl Hatley.
So after we got most everything planted, Resilient Hartford and all of our allies agreed that we should, over on the other side of the fence where the horseshoe throwing area is, would be a good spot to build an Abenaki or Abenaki, depending on whether you use the French or the English version of the word, which isn't either way that we pronounce it, would be a good place to put a traditional garden. We have a spot that's tilled and semi-tilled over there, and we also have planted some sunchokes or Jerusalem artichokes there, which are thriving. We've planted a cover crop of different covers, buckwheat and vetch and clover and different things that are a mix that are growing there right now. Since we can't bring in fertilizer, topsoil, compost without taking topsoil out, we're making our own by growing this cover, harvesting it, composting it, growing another cover for the winter, and then using that compost then that grew here for next spring when we till. We'll have a Three Sisters garden there, corn, beans, and squash in the tilled area. We'll be planting more artichokes at some point, planting sunflowers and other plants there, but the primary feature will be the Three Sisters Garden with the mounds for corn, beans, and squash.
Could you share with us how you pronounce Abenaki?
Abenuakik.
Abenuaki.
Benuaki.
Abenuakik.